So hello, everybody. Hello, Melvin, everybody here in the audience. This is, it's a pleasure to have everybody here. And what we're going to talk about today is something that I've really been thinking about a lot lately, something I've just been seeing out in the wild, and something that I'm starting to implement myself. So I'm my own case study. And it's all about the organic AI content cascade. And a strategy for thought leaders to implement this to get their name out there. And when I say thought leaders, I'm talking about new people who are thought leaders, not the ones who are already established, but I'm thinking about CEOs of companies, small, medium, even large companies who want to who want to change their marketing and go from being this kind of bland corporate marketing to having more of a personal brand type of marketing. You're seeing that a lot, and I'm going to show an example and talk about a few examples as well. Also thinking about maybe 50, 60-year-old executives who have either been laid off, retired, decide that they're sick of the rat race and they kind of want to go off on their own. They want to reinvent themselves, and even services companies, non-tech companies who want to really start to get away from the traditional marketing that maybe they've been clinging to for a little too long because, if it's not broken, why fix it? Well, the way the environment with social media and AI is changing, they're kind of almost forced to get into this, but they don't know how to start. And so this is a perfect webinar for them or anybody really who wants to really have a personal brand and content-driven marketing strategy out there. So I'm going to share my screen and get this show on the road. Okay. Can you see my screen? Okay.
Looks great.
Okay, perfect. All right. Perfect. So okay, here we go. All right. From one conversation to dozens of content pieces, the organic AI content cascade. Okay. So I'm going to state something that's very obvious, but it's true. It's something that we have to keep in mind. Marketing is changing. So we have obviously the now, the growth in the last 20 years of digital marketing, including things like SEO, search engine marketing, paid advertising on platforms like Google and all the social networks. You have social media, which has just exploded. And all of these things have really kind of become an established part of marketing now. I remember this was about 7 years ago. One of the largest advertising agencies, and I can't remember what the name of the agency was. I think it was Razorfish or something. But what they did was they declared that they were going to focus on digital first. I think it was maybe even more than 7 or 8 years ago. I think it was, probably 10 years ago. But that was big news that they were going to be a digital first advertising agency. And in that short period of time, everything is digital. So now people think about digital first before anything. So it's an established thing. Now marketing is changing again. We're getting into a situation where we have zero-click marketing. Zero-click marketing is something that Rand Fishkin and Amanda Natividad from the company SparkToro coined. It was actually Amanda Natividad who was the CMO of SparkToro. Rand Fishkin is the founder and CEO of SparkToro. If you all remember, Rand Fishkin was the CEO and founder of SEO Moz, which later became Moz. That was a platform to help you create presence on Google and other search engines with search engine optimization. And Moz was a tool to help you understand where the traffic was coming from, what are the keywords that are relevant to your website, how you can position yourself with the relevant keywords, finding keywords where the competition wasn't too high, but the interest or the traffic was high. And this all came to us. This was all driven by content. So content marketing was kind of the driver of SEO, and also because search was such a dominant thing. But it was all about getting into the top of the search engine results, getting people to click. And when they click, you get into their funnel, you get them to subscribe, and you essentially get into a funnel that then companies like, I don't know, MailChimp and ConvertKit and all of these marketing automation, email marketing, Marketo, and ClickFunnels, they all took advantage of the marketing funnel, which required you to click to get into the next part of the funnel. So I click to subscribe to a newsletter, then I click something in a newsletter, which takes me to content that's more commercial driven as opposed to content driven, etc. We now live in a zero-click world where more and more people are just establishing themselves on social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. They're not even asking people to join their newsletter anymore. The smart ones are, right? But even the smart ones are saying, okay, I'm going to just establish my presence on LinkedIn and I'm going to subtly get them to join my newsletter, not by putting links on a LinkedIn post or putting links on a Facebook post. You can't even paste a link on Instagram. Instagram is a zero-click social media platform. But it's all about just being there on the social media platform, having people come to your blog, having people subscribe to your newsletter, not because you're tricking them into clicking to download a free PDF or free something, and then they become a subscriber. I know I've been guilty of that. I'm still guilty of that. And I interviewed a friend of mine called Gerardo Dada, who he's the CMO of a company called
Catchpoint Software.
And what they do is they essentially make everything for free, right? Everything is free on their website. If you want to download a white paper, you don't even have to sign up for it. You just download it. So that's another reality with marketing today. And of course, AI. AI is making everything in marketing change. Now you have an explosion of AI content. You see it on LinkedIn. You can kind of tell because AI, if you don't edit it, if you're not a good editor, if you're all you want is speed as opposed to quality, it has that terrible AI stink to it. That's a term that my sister actually told me, that terrible AI language, that it kind of has that, those telltale signs that, oh, this is obviously AI. So there's an explosion of content out there, an explosion of content on blogs, on websites powered by AI. And I'm going to show you the right way to do it. And marketing is changing. And there are still people who are the laggards. So if you remember Jeffrey Moore's bell curve, he talks about the innovators, the early adopters, the early majority, the late majority, and then the laggards, who can also be described as the Luddites, if you will. There are still companies out there who still haven't adapted to digital marketing because either they don't want to deal with it, they're afraid of learning something new, or because their industry didn't even require digital marketing. Everybody already knew each other. It's maybe a legacy type of industry, and they didn't need to. Well, now I think everybody needs to change. Everybody needs to adapt to the new reality. And also, there's another change that is pretty obvious to everybody. Senior marketing leaders, senior business leaders in other fields like accounting or business management, etc., are being laid off. We've had this kind of quiet recession. Nobody's been calling it a recession, but it is a recession that is affecting top positions, people who are making the big money. So if you look at, maybe the trades, maybe some blue collar positions and also lower level positions, those are not experiencing a recession. In fact, the blue collar trades now are not considered blue collar or something to avoid, and you go to college in order to not have to be a plumber. Now it's actually very prestigious to be a plumber, to be an HVAC person, to be somebody who does construction, somebody who repairs things, etc. Those are now interestingly, those are the careers where a lot of people are making a lot of money, and there is various shows on TV that have made those sexy again. I think it was Dirty Jobs was a TV show that talked about that. So there's a lot of changes. So people in those top echelons of businesses are getting laid off. Maybe they're being paid too much. They can outsource. That's those high paying jobs, those functions that are core to the company. They can actually outsource that now to the Philippines, to India, to Mexico. You see a lot of people who are running important functions that are being outsourced, or now you have less experienced people in the marketplace, younger people who are doing these jobs, but they have a lot of prompts. They have the help of AI that can help them. And so these are some of the changes that are going on. And so that's why I actually mentioned that one of the target markets audience for this are 50 and 60-year-old executives. Basically, I'm in that group myself, who are looking for a new venture. They share their knowledge as a consultant. They want to be able to sort of be that grandfatherly type who mentors young up-and-coming business leaders and they are a business leader themselves because they've already achieved a certain amount of success. So marketing is changing, the work world is changing, and what is the answer to this? What is the answer? One of the things that I see that is changing in marketing, which I actually really welcome, is the change of large businesses, big companies, getting away from just that generic company content. In fact, I used to work for a company that did flexible packaging. We manufactured flexible packaging for all kinds of foodstuffs. You know, that's that stuff that those packages that you find at Whole Foods or any kind of grocery store, where they can actually stand up straight because they have flat bottoms and they have, you know, maybe some gourmet food inside it. Maybe you could buy beans, La Sierra beans, for example, uses these flexible packaging. So it was a pretty substantially sized company. It was a solid mid-sized company. But one of the mistakes that we made, and this is what's a mistake that so many large companies with large marketing teams do, is that they share content on social media from the company account, right? So if you go to LinkedIn and you'll see these corporate accounts, or you'll go to Instagram and you see the Instagram channel has the company name as opposed to an individual's name, people don't want to see that. I mean, that's throwing a lot of good content to waste. But there's a growing cadre of actual CEOs and company leaders who are leading the marketing for their company with personal brands. So I think one of the most famous examples of this, you know, love him or hate him, you can never be neutral about him, is Elon Musk, who is the best marketing for SpaceX, for Tesla, for all his companies, because he's just out there. He's out there. He bought X. He bought Twitter, turned it into X. He's tweeting and Xing all over the place. Now he's talking more about politics, but before he was really into politics, he was talking about, you know, how Tesla can help the environment, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But let's get into an example of maybe somebody that most men don't know about. And it's this person right here, Sarah Blakely. She is the founder of Spanx, and her story is really interesting. A little side note, she invented Spanx, which are like stockings, but they don't have legs on them. They don't have feet. I'm sorry. They do have legs. They don't have feet, because I think after she was a salesperson for a large company. I think it was an insurance company. And after just a long day of sales, she got so sick and tired of having to put on her pantyhose or to put on her stockings with the feet on it. She said, this is, you know, my feet are killing me. I want them to breathe. And she cut off the feet at the very bottom of the stockings. And as a result, she invented leggings, and that was Spanx. And so now you have a pair of kind of pantyhose or workout clothes that don't have feet on them. And it's great. So this is Sarah Blakely. She is the CEO. She used to be the CEO of Spanx. Now she has a new company called Sneaks. And you can see that she regularly creates content like a thought leader, like one of those gurus. And let me show you what she talks about here.
Inventors there were. How many female primary patent holders there were when I invented Spanx? Go ahead, guess. 6.8%. I'm not kidding. Now, 24 years later, because I invented Spanx in 2000, that number hasn't even officially doubled. It went from 6.8% to 13%. I know. I always think about this because I'm like.
So you can actually go to Sarah Blakely's profile on LinkedIn. She was the CEO of Spanx, a very important company that exploded in growth back in the early 2000s. And if you look at the activity on her LinkedIn profile, she is a content creation machine. She's constantly putting out videos, just like an individual thought leader or influencer does, but she is her own influencer. And that is the company marketing for her new company, Sneaks. And Sneaks is a new idea that comes from this concept that actually helped her invent Spanx. Now she invented Sneaks. Sneaks is a high heel sneaker because she was basically scratching her own itch. And I love this because Sneaks is it's a legitimate corporation that manufactures and sells through retailers and sells direct, etc. And this is the about page of Sneaks. And the about page is a video of her. She's got a good face for a camera, a good voice for radio. She has everything, and she's really smart, and she's a successful executive, and she does her own content.
So what's next for Sarah Blakely? What's left to conquer?
Well, I always say that I want to invent a comfortable stiletto. We put a man on the moon. Somebody needs to invent a comfortable high heel. I've been dreaming about creating a comfortable high heel since, well, I started wearing them. Literally had to take my shoes off. Okay? Well, super not cool to be like at the White House. Where's the White House? There it was. And have your shoes off. High heels were invented centuries ago.
Okay, so that is the about page of a corporation. And so I just love this so much. I mean, can you imagine if, the founder of or the CEO of Procter and Gamble, the manufacturer of so many of the foods we buy in the grocery store, would go around doing stuff like this, maybe doing an incognito or a candid visit to grocery stores and talking about his products or her products or whatever, or the CEO of Microsoft doing this. Steve Jobs was another example, and this was before really social media was so huge, maybe even before social media was invented. When he would introduce the iPods, that was before social media, and then the iPhone, that was with the start of social media. He was the biggest marketing person for Apple. His launch shows were legendary. Okay, so let's go back to the matter at hand. This is the statement for what the concept I'm talking about. So marketing today, whether you're a Fortune 500 executive or a solopreneur, is about sharing your authentic voice while using AI to create a content cascade. So what I'm going to talk about today is going to be divided into 3 parts. I'm going to talk about the speaking, book, and content marketing model. And as you can see, speaking and book, that is very personal oriented. That's not going to be marketing for a corporation. It's going to be marketing for an individual, the CEO or a designated thought leader within a corporation. The show, and I'll tell you what that's all about in a minute. And then my favorite part, the strategic AI-powered content cascade to achieve rapid dominance. I know that's a mouthful, but bear me out on this. So first of all, here's the model for the organic AI model that I just talked about. And as you can see, this kind of looks like a funnel, which really it is. It's a marketing funnel, but it's a 3D version of a marketing funnel in which we have 3 concentric circles that are they're positioned to be in the top of the funnel, the middle of the funnel, and then the bottom of the funnel. So what I have over here are 3 lines that run from top to bottom, and they connect the 3 legs of the stool, if you will, the speaking, book, content part of the concept, which actually is a concept that was coined by Joe Pulizzi. And I'll talk about that in a minute as well. Joe Pulizzi being the founder of Content Marketing Institute, Tilt Publishing, etc. So at the very top of the funnel, you have the book, and you'll see that the book runs through the funnel. So it doesn't change when you go from the top to the middle of the funnel to the bottom. And just to refresh everybody on what this is, if you're a marketer, I guess I don't really need to explain this to you, but I will anyway, just in case somebody stumbles upon this concept on videos out there. Top of the funnel is where you're getting people to know what you're all about. They're not in the market yet for your services or product, but what you're saying is interesting. Maybe it scratches an itch that they have. They have some present pain or a problem that they think that your content will initially help them with, but they're not in the market yet. They might be in a minute. Then the middle of the funnel, that's when they're kind of like, now we're actively in the market for these types of services, but they're kind of still shopping around. They're looking at options. And then the bottom of the funnel is, all you have to do is give them the right deal or a special, or kind of convince them that you're the best option versus 2 or 3 other competitors out there. Okay. So what do we have on the top of the funnel in terms of this organic AI model? In my latest book, Startup Book Marketing, The Startup Book is actually the name of the book. The Startup Book is, I recommend that you write a book to establish a new category or position your company with a new approach to your market, a unique way of delivering your service or a unique way of a unique type of product that scratches your market's itch, a problem that hasn't been addressed before. And you evangelize this through a book. A book gives you credibility. It gives you authority. It's a legacy. That's one of the things that a book can do for an executive or a solopreneur, a coach, a service provider, an agency, services company, whatever. A book can give the founder or the individual, help them leave a legacy, as well as establish the authority that they have invented this new model, which is very effective because they've done it before. So, and then the second thing is the show and speaking. And the show, I'm going to tell you in a minute, but Joe Pulizzi, in one of his recent episodes on his podcast, This Old Marketing, he does that podcast together with his friend and sidekick, Robert Rose. He talked about how, if you don't have a show and you're doing marketing as a thought leader, you probably need to have a show. And that can translate into having a podcast or having, so your show on YouTube, having your show on as a podcast. Maybe you have a regular show that you share on Instagram Reels or on TikTok, whatever, but it has to be a show. And the definition of a show is a program that has a specific topic and that you give or you publish at the same time every week or every day. So we are all familiar with shows. We have 60 Minutes. That's a show that's broadcast every week at the same time. We have Cold Case. It's a show that's broadcast at the same time every week. Now anybody can create a show and put it up to YouTube, do it on Twitch, have a live show on LinkedIn. You can even do a live show on LinkedIn. Now, that's a source of content for the content cascade. What I also mean by having a show or speaking, and what Joe Pulizzi was referring to more when he coined the term speaking book and content, is getting out there and speaking at conferences, maybe even organizing your own events like the marketing automation and AI event that I have in Austin. I've actually given this show to my friend and co-organizer Sharon DeCaro because she can be there full time while I spend half of my time in Mexico. But still, having your own events, speaking at events, doing webinars, being a guest on podcasts, etc. Speaking is actually the cornerstone of this organic AI model. And if you look at book and speaking, you maybe write the book first, because a book is a great way of organizing your ideas. I know with the startup book, I came up with the concept based on what I'm observing out there. This is not, the concept for the startup book was not theoretical. All I did was I put it into an organizing model on stuff that I have already observed and then I researched. But I wrote the book first and then I started talking about it. Or you can come up with concepts to start speaking about. You can have your keynote speech. You can have the speech that you give every time you're invited to a conference. You can give the same speech. New audiences, they don't know you gave it yesterday at another event. But either way, you can have this as the beginning or the book as the beginning. The speech and the show inform what you're going to do in your book, if this is what you do first, or the book is what informs what you're going to speak about. But the show and the speaking and the content that comes from that, the audios, the videos, that's the core part of the AI-powered content cascade, right? And the content cascade is every piece of content that you create from the show or from your speaking engagements. What does that mean? You should be recording everything. If you go give a speech, have somebody set up a tripod with a camera. It could be your own iPhone or your Galaxy, your Samsung Galaxy or whatever. Just put it on airplane mode so it doesn't get disturbed by an incoming call or a message from WhatsApp. Or it could be one of those, I think there's a thing called the Osmo Pocket 3, these little tiny cameras that are vertical in length, and they're pretty high quality. They're what these walking podcasters do. They're people who will walk around. Think about traveling influencers who go from Bangkok to Berlin to Buenos Aires, and they're walking through the streets of these beautiful cities doing selfie videos of themselves. So record everything you're doing. Maybe you just even pull out the voice recorder on your phone. But that's the core seed. That's the cornerstone content for your content cascade, which in the top of the funnel, this is The top of the funnel is really the discovery funnel. So I should have actually added here, this is where people discover you. They find you out. They find out about you through social media, through YouTube, through Twitch. And this is where you also create your content cascade of your video shorts. Maybe you have an hour-long webinar that you gave, or your show is 45 minutes, maybe even 3 hours like Joe Rogan does, or Rich Roll. He does 3-hour-long podcasts. And then you have plenty of content to then repurpose into video shorts, social posts on, LinkedIn. Maybe it's a 500-word social post for LinkedIn or Facebook. And then you do micro social, very short posts on LinkedIn, very easy to read. Or you do it on a tweet-sized micro content, Blue Sky, Threads, and X. So all of these are discoverable. Somebody's looking for a topic, they can find it on Amazon. Maybe it was recommended by Amazon's algorithm. Maybe you're searching for a certain topic and this thing shows up. Your show on YouTube. YouTube is a discovery channel. If you're a guest speaker at another conference, that's a discovery channel because you're speaking to new audiences who don't know about you. So the top of the funnel is the discovery part of the funnel. And your content is thrown out there and being seeded so that people can find you and discover you. And this is where I'm going to talk about in a little bit. We achieve rapid dominance. And rapid dominance is a military term. My good friend Kevin McGrew, who is a ex-Navy, told me about the term. And I'll explain that in a minute. Then you have the middle of the funnel, the middle circle in the funnel. And so the show and speaking now gets onto things like Spotify and Apple Podcasts and other things where you kind of have, those are not great discovery channels, unfortunately, right? Spotify actually is, and I've found some good podcasts to listen to and subscribe to by just using the Spotify search box. So I could actually put Spotify both here and here, but this is where people are a little bit more committed. They maybe heard 30 seconds of a video short on YouTube or a reel or a TikTok, that's where people have short attention spans because they're scrolling through social media. They're just searching on Amazon or other book things. And this is where they're not really paying much attention to you. And that's where short content is perfect. That's why you need those video shorts and social posts, etc. But then when they find your thing out of all the other things they're scrolling through, they're on Instagram Reels and they found your content, trigger something in them, then they'll seek you out and they'll maybe listen to your 3-hour podcast episode, or they'll sign up for a webinar like you did, like you all have, like you have, Melvin. Maybe they want to join your free community on Facebook, where you actually can also see a free webinar in your community where your community members can see your content. And this is where you get people to subscribe to your newsletter. And this is where they'll might go to your actual website and read your blog posts. They're more committed. They're interested in learning more. That's where you create the things like what Netflix has enabled. And Netflix created the invention of a new term called content binging, where they'll release a whole episode of a whole season of 12 episodes in one go, and people will watch the whole thing in a weekend. I know I've done that. Maybe not proud to say that, but sometimes you get obsessed about it. And so there's actually a strategy that people on YouTube will use where they'll actually create an initial episode. And then there's ways of using YouTube where you just send them to the next video and the next video. And so you get people binging on your content because they're in this phase in the middle of the funnel where they're interested in learning as much as they can, right? People want to do that before they buy something. They'll get convinced about, wow, I just found this thing. I watched 10 of their YouTube videos and I'm a fan. And wow, did they have a course or have they invented a product? Is there something I could buy? And then finally, the most committed is the bottom of the funnel. The bottom of the funnel where they are now ready to actually pull out their wallet. So maybe you have a paid community where you release special members only videos. And there's various communities out there with Circle and Mighty Networks, but the one that's absolutely exploding right now is Skool, Skool, where you can divide a community that you create for free on Skool from a free community to a paid community. I think Skool's business model is really great. This is another side comment. It's really great because they charge you a commission of your paid, a percentage of your paid community. This is where you actually might be able to hold a summit or an event. This is a big annual thing. People will spend multiple hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to attend your event. This is where they're fully committed. This is where they become your fans, your customers. A premium newsletter. So The Hustle, that was led by Sam Parr. The Hustle is a newsletter for younger generations who are interested in getting business news in a funny, tongue-in-cheek way, with quick media snippets. And then The Hustle's newsletter would then try and sell their paid newsletter called Trends.co. Trends.co was premium content. And it was a newsletter that was delivered. And what Trends.co was, that was actually a kind of a brilliant thing. They did deep research on trending ideas for products, and they delivered, this is, if you want to start a business in this market, it's trending now. And these are the numbers, these are the positioning, et cetera. So they gave you pretty much a roadmap for starting a business in that area. And then of course you have courses, online courses have become huge business. And then even, so once you've gotten your audience who have consumed all your content to the very bottom of the funnel and then through the funnel, then that's where they buy your products and or services. If your paid community, your summit, your paid newsletter, your courses are not your main product, they could be the initial taste of your paid product. Just like you might buy a shot in a bar of a new tequila, and then you say, you know what, I bought this with money, but it was just a shot. I think I'm going to go to the liquor store and buy this brand new artisan tequila that George Clooney created. I don't know if George Clooney has a tequila. I think he does. Maybe it's a whiskey. So that's what the organic AI model is in a nutshell. So let's get into an example from my life about how I applied this. So I actually was doing this as a consultant for a company, a marketing consultant for a company. It was a custom software development company out of Mexico. They can build you an app. If you're a business owner or any kind of a business, and you want to have an app for your website, or you want to create an automation within your company, you want to have software that enables people to, instead of having to call up and place an order, you can create a custom app for that company that's very particular to your unique processes, because off-the-shelf software may not work for you. This is what my customer does. This is what my client company does. But the thing about this company is that they were great at developing software. They had fantastic developers who knew PHP and Java and all these languages, but they didn't know how to market themselves out of a paper bag. They had zero database. They had no database of clients, of prospects that they would email interesting information to, and then every now and then send them some kind of an offer for, we have a special discount today, or if you want to create a free app, we can do that for you for only $5,000, right? They had no database, no way of marketing to people. It was all, word of mouth. And they also had all their eggs in maybe 2 or 3 baskets. They were really dependent on 2 or 3 major customers. And if one of those customers decided they didn't want to do business with my client anymore, they were SOL. That would take away 33% of the revenue. And so they didn't have anything to replace that, didn't have any consistent, systematic way of marketing. So we decided to come up with this thing called the AI Smart Summit. And the AI Smart Summit was a free virtual conference that spanned 3 days. And it was talking about AI, not for marketing purposes, but the topics that we chose that essentially were about how AI can make your company more efficient for your back-end operations, all the way to your customer-facing stuff, all the way to loyalty, etc. So this was AI for everything that the company do. We were able to recruit 16 guest speakers, and we got 900 people to sign up. But the thing was, we only had 5 weeks to organize this, and we had a zero database. So how were we going to market this summit? How are we going to get a significant audience to sign up to the summit? So it was like Macaulay Culkin here. We were like, what the hell are we going to do? And so we used AI. I used AI. I'm going to show you in a minute how many people were dedicated to this and what we were able to achieve with just a skeleton crew. So for the whole marketing campaign that I did to get as many people to register for this online conference as possible, I used Claude.ai and ChatGPT. They're pretty much almost the same thing. It's like Toyota versus Honda, Ford versus Chevy, etc. I like Claude.ai better. It has a bigger context window, but ChatGPT actually now has the most developed large language model out there. They just recently announced it, and it's amazing. So now they actually have, I've been using ChatGPT Plus, which is $20 a month. Now they've introduced a new tier, which is $200 a month. That's ChatGPT Pro, which is way more advanced than anything out there. It's 10 times the cost of ChatGPT Plus. Then I use Riverside.fm and Descript. So Riverside.fm is a podcast recording tool. It's like Zoom, which I'm using for this right now, but it's actually, it's like a TV studio in a box. Because with Riverside.fm, if you have somebody that you're interviewing, each person has its own track, so its own audio and video file. And they do that to maximize the quality of the video and audio. And they have AI algorithms that edit and upgrade the quality of your audio and video so that you can make it look and sound like studio quality content. And then they also have their own transcription algorithm, but I used instead Descript. Descript is a transcription tool, but it's also an audio and video editing tool, etc. Okay, so who was involved with this whole process? It was just me and it was just three of us. Me, a designer, and a social media person, and that was it. You know, usually when you're organizing a large conference, you need a lot more people. But no, we had a team of AI bots helping us out. Okay, so this is the website for the AI Smart Summit by Water. Water stands for We Are the Robots, and it was in Mexico in Spanish. So it was at the beginning of September, and this is where I start talking about rapid dominance, and this is how I leveraged AI to create the content cascade for the AI Smart Summit. Okay, so what does rapid dominance mean? It was more commonly known in the vernacular. We learned about this from it was the first Gulf War, and then also the Iraq War in 2003, the Gulf War in 1991. A little anecdote: my first son, was born January 16th, 1991, when we started bombing Baghdad. And so it was kind of a bittersweet welcome of my son to the world. He was born at 12:46 a.m. midnight on January the 16th. And then that afternoon at 2 p.m. California time, I was living in California at the time, I actually left the hospital to go to Fuddruckers, get a hamburger because I was starving. I hadn't eaten anything in 12 hours. And right there on the TV, I saw the news about the bombing. I called my mother and she said they're bombing Baghdad. Anyway, it was very surreal. It was so surreal, but shock and awe. It was introduced as a term by General Schwarzkopf, but that's the vernacular. It was actually technically known as rapid dominance. And the meaning, according to my friend Kevin, is you create this image that you are a much larger force than you really are. And it's actually a term that was used to describe anti-guerrilla forces. It's something that special forces, or actually the certain segments of the army, use when there was just a few thousand of them and you're in a city of 3 or 5 million people, and you want to let the people know or think that you're everywhere. So there's certain tactics you use, with kind of a strategic use of explosives and this and that and the other to kind of create rapid dominance. That was kind of the thinking behind the Blitzkrieg that Germany used during World War II, was to actually create this appearance of that they're overwhelming you, when actually it was really more of a cardboard town, if you will. But what it does is it uses overwhelming power and spectacular displays of force. There it is, spectacular displays of force to paralyze the enemy's perception of the battlefield and destroy their will to fight. Now, we don't want to destroy our audiences or our competitors' will to fight, but what we want to do is we want to create this perception that, golly, all of a sudden I'm seeing Johnny's content everywhere. It's like he's going viral or something. And that's what I did without me knowing it at the time, but that was the actual result that I achieved with the marketing for the AI Smart Summit, right? So here's an example of the YouTube channel that I helped to create, that I created for We Are the Robots to market their summit. And what did we achieve with this? So I'll give you a little bit about this, about the sequence of events for marketing the AI Smart Summit. We had 16 speakers. And so I was thinking, okay, we have no budget actually for advertising. We had no budget to hire a PR firm. We had zero database. How are we going to get people to register for this? First of all, we did have a database of people who were the personal friends of the CEO of the company, my client, the CEO. But these are just his friends and contacts. These are not people who had decided to subscribe and were now receiving marketing messages. So what I did was I had this thought, okay, I'll interview the speakers before the conference. I'll do a 20-minute interview with every speaker, and I'll get them to give us a preview of their talk, because people want to know what are they going to get with this conference. And the topics were very interesting. So this is I thought, okay, if I create these pre-conference videos and record them, I can share the videos on YouTube and on LinkedIn. And then I can also create video shorts of these. Then I can also create newsletter sends. We didn't have any people subscribe to the newsletter until we started people getting registered, right? And that's another thing. You want people to see your content, to get interested in it, but you also want to keep sending them information after they've already subscribed or after they've already registered, so that on the day of, that they'll actually show up. Because sometimes people sign up for something that's free, since they didn't pay any money, they're not totally committed to it, and they forget to show up unless you send them something, every 3 days or every week, maybe even daily, that includes videos of the conference itself to get them excited about the topic. So that's what I did. I recorded them, and then I created the YouTube videos. These were 20-minute long interviews that I did that you upload to YouTube. And then I did all the video shorts. And that's what Riverside.fm does. Riverside, as well as there's another company, a competitor called Opus.clip. So Opus.clip as opposed to .ai. Yeah, I think it's what it is. But it uses AI to find those important little sound bites within the interview, because these interviews can kind of go on, and maybe the person is kind of maybe droning and answering a question that I ask, and taking a little too long to answer it. But there's always those really golden nuggets, which these things like Riverside.fm or Opus.clip or even Descript can find them, and it understands well enough what are some interesting sound bites. You can also do it manually to do that, but the shorts are some of the things that can really surface that content for the top of the funnel when you're trying to get discovered. But also what I did was I actually shared shorts from my client's LinkedIn profile. So my client gave me access to his LinkedIn, and I shared these things. Okay, so Instagram Reels, TikToks, LinkedIn postings and videos, newsletter sends, other people's audiences. I'll tell you about that in a minute. Right. So what were the results? I was only able to get to 13 interviews. 3 others never responded to me. But as a result of the 13 videos, we had 57 shorts, 15 newsletter sends. We were able to get in 5 weeks 52 YouTube subscribers, which I think is not bad. 3 newsletter sends on Monógrafo. Monógrafo is a newsletter in Spanish about AI. And this is where we have other people's audiences coming into play. Okay. So Monógrafo or Monograph, they have 3,000 subscribers. And this was a gift from heaven that came as a result of me achieving this rapid dominance of the social media airwaves, kind of flooding the airwaves with all this content. And so when I started sharing LinkedIn content from my client's profile on a daily basis, maybe even twice a day, I would share the video shorts. I would share written YouTube things that came out of those interviews, right? So each interview allowed me to create YouTube shorts, social media posts that were written and that were text-based, short posts, and then things that I sent in the newsletter to all the people that started subscribing. All of a sudden, one of my clients' good friends from middle school, who had left Mexico and had moved to Seattle to work for Microsoft, and then he decided to start his own newsletter about AI, for an audience in Spanish, he started seeing this content. And so he sent a message to my client and he said, hey, I see you're having this AI conference in September. Do you want me to promote it to my newsletters? Again, manna from heaven, right? We couldn't have asked for something better because of this rapid dominance we were able to achieve. My friend didn't even know that his friend from my client didn't even know that his friend from middle school had this newsletter with 3,000 subscribers. So he told us it's free. I'm not going to charge you like I charge my other sponsors of my newsletter. Just give me content for 3 newsletters. And we did. So that was fantastic. I also, and this was another result of all this cascade of content that I was starting to flood the social media airwaves with. I reached out to one of Mexico's top commerce chambers of commerce. So, hey, listen, do you think you can promote this to your members? You know, it's a national chamber of commerce. It spans almost all of Mexico's states. And I said, here's an example of some of the videos that I've been publishing on YouTube. And he watched the videos and he said, this is fantastic. This would be perfect for our members. So we got this. So we got one of Mexico's largest chambers of commerce to promote it because of the content that I was creating that gave it legitimacy. It wasn't just hot air that I was telling them about that we were organizing the conference. And then we had some of the speakers who were posting, and I think we had about 3 speakers that had large audiences. And between them, they each one did an average of about 4 of their own posts. And that got people to come to the conference. We had one of the speakers post to 7 WhatsApp groups. And then we had Sintra is the Chamber of Commerce. They sent 22 messages through the national database as well as local chapters that sent to the database. We got 904 registrations. Okay. So that was my case study. And I was amazed because it all happened organically. We didn't spend a single dime or peso on promoting this by paid advertising. It was all the content cascade, the rapid dominance, getting people, other people's audiences, the speakers and this friend and the Chamber of Commerce, because we had a really cool thing and we had content to show them. Okay. So the show, getting into the practical parts, but you got to have a show, have a show. Invite people to a podcast. Maybe you teach things by yourself on podcasts. That's what Dan Koe does. He has a weekly YouTube show where he teaches some deep stuff about marketing, about life, about business, but also get on the speaking circuit, get on webinars, give webinars, organize your own summits and events, right? I've done this with my own podcast. I recently launched the AI Marketing Case Studies podcast. I have 6 episodes out right now, and people are really excited about actually joining it, even though my audience is still relatively microscopic. But the topic is interesting, and I'm going to just be consistent and persistent in publishing shows every week. But this is my show, and I use this to create content through AI. Rapid dominance. This is the concept that I've been talking about. And then you have the book, and I've talked about the book in other on other webinars, and I'll actually reference that in the description of this for YouTube. But the book is specifically the place where you're going to introduce your thesis to the world. You're going to introduce, it's like a manifesto of maybe a unique methodology that you have in your business, or maybe a new idea completely, right? So you have Seth Godin, who is a prolific book author and publisher, and his first one that actually really kind of introduced the core concepts for what we know as content marketing and inbound marketing today in his book that he published in, I think it was 1999 or 2000, called Permission Marketing, right? And so this is introducing a new concept, a new way of looking at marketing. And he did this through a book. Then we have another example, probably very well known to everybody who's in marketing, which is the book Inbound Marketing by the co-founders of the software company HubSpot, who Dharmesh Shah and Brian Halligan, and they wrote a book, right? So you're actually starting to see company founders writing a book. Jenny's Ice Cream from Ohio. Jenny's Ice Cream, the owner and CEO of the company, Jenny, has written a coffee table book with beautiful pictures of ice cream that teaches people how to make wonderfully creative desserts with ice cream. So she's introducing this new concept of leveraging ice cream to create different kind of desserts. Whereas previously people just thought of ice cream as, I'm going to put ice cream in a cone or in a bowl and I'm going to eat it. Now you have ice cream being used in multiple desserts, right? And so the book is a way that you can go out and create a new category, and you can use it to market and sell your company and services. Okay. So that's all for the webinar today. And I think that, one of the things that I'm going to do in a future webinar, actually, I'm going to give this in the second Thursday of January. So there's going to be a long gap because right now it is the 19th of December. We got Christmas in 6 days. I hope you're going to have a fun time with loved ones, Melvin, and I am too here in Mexico. But the next webinar is I'm going to talk about the details of how you would create this content cascade using AI. I'm going to talk about the prompts that I use. I'm going to talk about a couple of custom GPTs and Claude's equivalent of a custom GPT called projects, how I set those up so that I can just put the transcript of a webinar or of me waxing poetic to my voice recorder, how I can get the transcript of that and then attach a file of the transcript and the instructions that I put in my custom GPT or my Claude project for how to create content for my blog, for my newsletter, for social media. And that's going to be a very exciting, hands-on, practical webinar. He has a course that I developed for him, etc. And so I think that's what I see people doing. And you can also think about this for even millennials and Generation Z. But what they want to do is they want to step up their game and use this for a more formal marketing strategy, as opposed to then just being an influencer and that's it. And they don't know how to take people from discovery to all the way to becoming clients of a real product that they might want to create. Okay, so I'm very excited about this, and I will see you next time when we talk about this on the 9th of January, and see you next time.